A woman with no friends is often viewed through a lens of judgment, as society tends to value social connections and relationships. Yet, the absence of close friendships can carry a deeper meaning, one that reveals a woman's emotional landscape and her choices in life. Being without friends does not automatically signify isolation or loneliness. Rather, it could indicate a conscious decision to retreat from toxic influences or unhealthy dynamics. Some women find themselves in a position where their experiences, values, or needs no longer align with the people around them, and they prefer solitude to superficial friendships. The absence of friendships can also highlight a woman's focus on her personal goals. Instead of investing her time in social circles, she may be fully immersed in pursuing her career, education, or personal projects. This prioritization of her ambitions can lead to the temporary sacrifice of friendships as she devotes herself to things that matter most in the long run. Although social connections are important, she understands that achieving her goals requires a laser focus, and sometimes that means walking a path alone for a time. In many cases, a woman without friends has experienced betrayal, disloyalty, or disappointment from those she once trusted. These painful experiences can foster a sense of distrust or wariness toward others. As a result, she may choose to keep a distance from potential friends, as she doesn't want to expose herself to the possibility of further emotional injury. Her solitude is not an indication of weakness, but rather a reflection of her resilience. She may have learned the hard way that not all people are capable of offering the respect, kindness, and loyalty she expects in a relationship. The absence of close friendships may signify that a woman is deeply reflective, choosing to spend time cultivating her own mind, soul, and ambitions. When she chooses to walk alone, it allows her to engage in self-discovery, personal growth, and emotional healing. Solitude can be a powerful catalyst for transformation, offering space for introspection and clarity that is difficult to achieve in the midst of external distractions. She may prioritize inner peace and development over social validation or the noise of trivial interactions. A woman who has no friends may also feel misunderstood by society, especially when placed under the pressure to constantly be surrounded by others. Society often equates a lack of friends with being unworthy or undesirable, ignoring the fact that some women simply choose solitude. This external pressure can be overwhelming, as it fails to acknowledge that friendships do not define a person's worth. A woman who stands alone, without the need for social validation, demonstrates strength and independence that many fail to recognize or appreciate. She is learning to embrace her own company and recognize her intrinsic value without needing to rely on others for affirmation. Being without friends can also reflect a woman's high standards and unwillingness to settle for superficial bonds. She is not willing to engage in friendships that do not enrich her life or contribute to her growth. This high level of discernment means that she is careful about who she allows into her inner circle. While others may be quick to form connections for the sake of social status or companionship, she waits for genuine connections based on shared values, mutual respect, and trust. She understands that authentic friendships are not easy to come by and requires patience and time to nurture. For some women, a lack of friends may also stem from a preference for more meaningful, one-on-one connections rather than large social groups. They may find that group dynamics often dilute the depth of conversation and connection. Rather than forming a broad network of acquaintances, they may prefer the intimacy and authenticity of a few close relationships. These women may choose quality over quantity, valuing the deep bonds that can only be formed when there is mutual understanding and emotional investment. They understand that true friendship is not defined by the number of people in one's life, but by the depth of the connection shared. Solitude often brings clarity, and a woman who has no friends may see her life from a perspective that others cannot. She may gain insights into her purpose, her desires, and her values without the influence of others clouding her judgment. This time alone can be used to recalibrate her life, ensuring that she is on the right path and aligned with her true self. When she does decide to open herself up to others, it will be with a sense of intentionality, knowing exactly what she wants and needs in her relationships. Choosing to live without friends may also be an act of self-protection. If a woman has been hurt or betrayed in the past, she may guard her heart from further emotional pain. It is easier to avoid relationships altogether than to risk the vulnerability required to let others in. While this decision can be empowering, it can also be isolating, and at times she may long for the connection and support that friendships offer. However, she remains committed to her choice, knowing that not every person deserves access to her heart, and that it's better to be alone than to be surrounded by people who do not appreciate or respect her. The decision to remain without friends may also signal a higher level of self-sufficiency. Some women are capable of thriving on their own, and they don't require external validation to feel whole. They find strength in their ability to rely on themselves, using their time alone to sharpen their intellect, develop their skills, and focus on their passions. They take pride in being independent and self-reliant, knowing that they are fully capable of taking care of their emotional, mental, and physical needs. Despite what outsiders may perceive, a woman without friends may not feel lonely. In fact, she may find comfort in her own solitude, engaging in activities that nourish her mind, body, and spirit. She may find joy in reading, writing, hiking, or creating activities that align with her passions and help her feel fulfilled. Her inner world may be rich and complex, offering her the contentment and satisfaction that many seek from external relationships. This connection to herself gives her the freedom to explore her interests without the constraints of social obligations or expectations. A woman without friends is often able to avoid the drama, jealousy, and superficiality that can plague social groups. She is free from the petty conflicts that arise in friendships based on insecurity, competition, or envy. Instead, her life is focused on what truly matters to her, whether that's self-improvement, creative expression, or pursuing her purpose. By cutting out the distractions of unnecessary relationships, she frees herself to live a more focused, intentional life, making the most of her time and energy in ways that align with her values. The decision to live without friends is a reflection of inner strength, a deep understanding of one's needs, and a commitment to personal growth. It is not a rejection of others, but rather a decision to protect one's peace and well-being. A woman who walks this path has learned to embrace her own company, recognizing that her worth does not depend on the validation or approval of others. She understands that her journey is hers alone, and she is willing to walk it, regardless of the opinions or expectations placed on her by society. A woman who consciously decides to distance herself from toxic relationships is demonstrating a deep level of emotional intelligence and self-respect. Toxic relationships are not always immediately recognizable, but over time they begin to affect one's mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. Recognizing these patterns and taking action is not a sign of weakness, but rather a powerful display of self-awareness. The decision to step away is an acknowledgement that her well-being is too important to compromise for the sake of maintaining unhealthy ties. In many toxic relationships, one party might exhibit manipulative behaviors, whether overt or subtle. This could manifest through guilt-tripping, emotional blackmail, or attempting to undermine one's confidence and self-worth. A woman who chooses to avoid such relationships is not just protecting her peace, she is prioritizing her emotional integrity. It's not easy to recognize these dynamics, especially when affection and loyalty have been intertwined with unhealthy patterns. But once the clarity is gained, the desire for peace and self-respect often outweighs the temptation to remain in a familiar yet harmful situation. Toxic relationships thrive on dependency emotionally, financially, or socially. They often create an imbalance where one individual is constantly giving while the other takes. This drains the energy of the person giving and creates a sense of imbalance that can be hard to identify in the midst of it. A woman who distances herself from such relationships understands that she cannot pour from an empty cup. She recognizes that only when she is whole and self-sufficient can she offer her love, energy, and care to others in a healthy way. In a toxic relationship, giving without receiving tends to erode one's sense of self and purpose. By choosing to walk away, she ensures that she will never allow herself to be drained by those who refuse to reciprocate. Sometimes toxic relationships involve people who are emotionally manipulative, using tactics to make the woman feel responsible for their feelings, happiness, or success. These individuals might play the victim or create scenarios where the woman feels obligated to fix things. In a toxic relationship, the emotional burden often falls on one individual, and the more empathetic they are, the harder it becomes to step away. A woman who avoids such relationships learns to detach from guilt and recognizes that she cannot be responsible for another person's happiness, especially when it comes at the expense of her own emotional health. A crucial part of avoiding toxic relationships is setting and maintaining healthy boundaries. People who thrive in toxic environments often ignore their own needs and allow others to violate their emotional or physical boundaries. For a woman, this means recognizing that she does not have to accept disrespect, unkindness, or mistreatment, no matter the form it takes. It's easy to dismiss these violations in the hope that things will improve or that the person will change. However, the longer she stays in such relationships, the more she risks losing herself and her sense of value. Setting boundaries is a sign of strength, not selfishness. It's an acknowledgement that her well-being deserves to be protected. A major factor in toxic relationships is the constant cycle of drama, conflict, and unpredictability. Some relationships thrive on volatility, where moments of peace are fleeting and the presence of chaos is the norm. This unstable environment creates an unhealthy roller coaster of emotions that eventually wears down one's mental resilience. A woman who distances herself from these types of relationships recognizes that she deserves peace and stability in her life. She understands that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of clarity and the ability to manage life's challenges with a steady mind. One of the hardest decisions a woman can make is choosing to cut ties with someone who was once important to her. Whether it's a family member, a close friend, or a romantic partner, the emotional ties can run deep. But when the relationship becomes toxic, the love and care she once felt can easily be overshadowed by hurt, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. The decision to walk away, although painful, is often necessary for personal growth. She acknowledges that the relationship has run its course, and that holding on only prevents her from moving forward and becoming the person she is meant to be.